Hey everyone, I'm Brian with Aromacup.com. Thank you guys as always for joining me here in my virtual coffee shop brought to you by Aromacup.com. In today's exclusive video, I've got a review for you of the Starbucks Verismo 585 single serve coffee machine. We recently reviewed the Starbucks Verismo 580 and that machine's a little smaller, lacks some of the bells and whistles that this one does. So this is going to be kind of the granddaddy of single serve machines coming from Starbucks. Really cool machine, got a lot of different features, so let's dive in and start talking about all the features on the Verismo 585. So let's start on the bottom of the machine and move up. Let's start talking about the tray. The tray on the 585, much like the 580 Verismo machine, is removable. You can pull out the taller part of the tray and put the grill back on there. That allows you to put larger mugs underneath the spigot for brewing, so that's very useful also if you're going to use tall tumblers and things like that. Now, just like the 580, the 585 has a removable tray, and you'll find on the back of it the pod collection tray. This is where all your spent pods are going to land. It has a grill underneath it, and that's so that any liquid from those pods can fall down and into the collection tray on the bottom. You want to clean that pretty frequently, especially if you're going to be using a lot of milk pods. Now, this tray can collect up to 30 spent pods, so you're probably not going to have to clear it out too often, but again, you probably want to clean it pretty frequently if you're using milk pods on the 585. One of the features on the 585 that's different from the Verismo 580 and something that I haven't seen on other single serve machines is this adjustable spigot. And this is cool because one of the things that you're gonna find if you use taller tumblers very often with just about any single serve machine that I've found is that you get some drippage. If you're brewing into a cup, maybe a larger one or something like that, you'll get splashes. This is cool because you can actually adjust the clearance of the spigot, and that way you should be able to cut down on the amount of spillage or drips that come out of your cup as you're brewing. So that's a pretty cool feature on the 585. All right, so let's get down to the meat and potatoes of how you can brew on this machine using all of the buttons on the front of it. So there's more buttons on this unit than there are on the 580. If you've seen our review or if you've checked out the Verismo 580, there's a lot more features on this one. You have the power button, of course. Now, when you first turn the machine on, you're going to need to rinse it usually. You're not going to find the top three cup sizes lit up here. You're only going to see the rinse light glowing, and that means that you need to rinse the machine. There are, on this machine, the same as the 580, the three ones that we've come to know from Starbucks. Going from my left over to the right here, we've got the milk button. That's for making milk pods, and specifically only milk pods. In the middle, you have the brewed button, and that is for brewing brewed pods, simple regular coffee. And then on the far right here, you have the espresso button, and that, of course, for brewing espresso pods. We'll talk about pods in a little bit here. Now, this machine has a dedicated rinse button, which is also pretty cool. On the Verismo 580, the espresso button and the rinse button are combined into one, but there's one button specifically for that on the 585. And in the center here, we have a button that is not on the Verismo 580 at all, and that button is the temperature reduction button. So if you want to brew at a lower heat, a lower temperature, and we're thinking that maybe this would also be really good for tea as time goes on. There's currently no tea pods at the making of this video for the 585 or any of the Verismo machines, but this will allow you to actually bring the temperature of the brew cycle down, and therefore you can brew a little bit cooler brew. Maybe you like your beverage not as hot, something like that. Really useful for that purpose. And just so you know, the temperature reduction that you can invoke, if you press that button, that's going to drop the temperature of the brew to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very useful if you like a colder brew. And then here, finally finishing up the buttons, we have the power button on the front. Pretty easy to understand. Obviously, press it to turn the machine on. If you want to turn the machine off before the auto power off is invoked, you can hold this button down for about 10 seconds. That'll turn the machine off entirely. All right, so above that row of buttons, you have an LCD screen, and this is pretty much what's going to tell you what's happening on the machine. Now, when it's in normal operation, you're going to see the 3-cup types lit up, and you're going to see that rinse button lit up. But there's a few others that are going to light up here depending on the operation of the machine. Notably, if we pull out the tray, you're going to notice that we're going to get that blinking red light. That's going to let us know that we've pulled the tray out and we need to put it back in. That way, if you're not getting a brew when you're trying to brew, you know, push that back in. You're also going to find that if you remove the water tank, you're going to get a notification on the front that tells you that the water tank is not there. That also is going to tell you when it is time to refill the tank as well. And we'll talk about the tank in a few moments. We also are going to get notifications here as to when it's time to descale the machine, which is very useful because you're going to find that you need to descale this machine not frequently, but it is something you want to do in order to keep the machine nice and clean. You're also going to get a notification on here of when it's time to replace the water filter. And that's right, there is a water filter in the tank of the Verismo 585, so that is a pretty cool option on this machine. So all of these different LCD functions are going to light up depending on what it is that you're using on the machine. So if you invoke the temperature reduction on the machine, you're going to see that you are reducing the temperature when you are brewing. You can just switch between those modes. When you're brewing, you're going to see whichever cup type it is that you're brewing lit up as you are brewing with the machine, and the same for any of the other options on it. So this is also how you can access some of the other features for programming the machine and being able to really tailor the machine. That's a cool thing about the 585. Definitely has a lot of features that allow you to tailor it to your liking. When it comes to water tank size, the 585 definitely wins, I think, over any machine that I've ever used. It's got a 118 fluid ounce tank, and I was really impressed by the size of the tank. I saw it and I went, okay, this is an impressively sized tank. Great thing that I like about this machine and about the Starbucks machines in general is how easily you can remove the tank. There's this little handle in it, and you can really just pull it off and replace it really easily, and I think that's pretty cool. There's no major fiddling about. Now, I did mention that there's a water filter in this tank. Let me show that to you guys. And there it is. That is the water filter for the Verismo 585. So very cool feature here on the 585 is this removable water filter. It's just a charcoal water filter. And, you know, pretty simple. There's a notification here on the top to let you know when you put it in so that you know when you should change it. And it just screws right into the water tank. So you need to clean the machine. Typically, Starbucks recommends to clean the machine thoroughly once a month and to descale the machine every 3 months. And we'll do some videos later on about how you can do both of those functions on the machine. But that's something that I know a lot of folks are wondering about, a water filter for the tank. There it is. Now you still want to use filtered or distilled water. You want to use the cleanest water that you possibly can to cut down on scale buildup inside of the machine. But that water filter is definitely going to help the quality and the flavor of the beverages that you make with the Verismo 585. All right, so let's talk about the lever on the 585, and this is very simple to use. I've got the water tank off right now so I can flip the machine and show it to you guys. Real easy to use, just flips right up, and right here you have your pod holders. Is where you're going to put your espresso, your coffee, or your milk pods before you brew with the machine. It's shaped just like one of the pods, so it's really easy to just pop one in there, and then you just simply drop it in and close this lever up. And as soon as it snaps on and punctures that kefir pod, you're ready to start brewing. And so very easy operation, and it feels real solid, which is great. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's going to break or anything, especially since you have to really apply some serious pressure sometimes to puncture those kefir pods. It's a very simple operation using that lever on the top of the 585. All right, so let's get down to having some real fun with this machine and brew some beverages. We need to rinse the machine first, and my Bodum tumbler is fitting nicely underneath the brew station right here, but again, I can use that adjustable spigot if I want to cut down on splashing, which is cool. First thing that we need to do, however, is we need to rinse the machine. So I'm just going to run a quick rinse cycle, press that rinse button. Now this isn't going to use up too much water, but it's going to prime the machine and get it ready to brew your beverage. So this is, I found, a pretty important thing to do anytime. As I say, you're going to have to do this when you power the machine up. And I've had a tendency to just do it fairly frequently when I'm making use of the machine for just brewing drinks at home and things like that. Okay, so we've primed the machine, we've rinsed it, it's ready to go. So let's go ahead and put our mug back under and let's brew some coffee. Now, we were talking about pods a little bit, and you may have seen our other videos about K-Fee pods. K-Fee pods, very specific to the Starbucks Verismo line. I've got a house blend K-Fee pod right here. They're pretty simple, they're very short, they're color-coded, so it's easy to tell what kind of a pod it is that you have. Now, on the brewed pods, the thing that you're going to need to remember is that you have to remove this foil seal on the bottom of the brewed pod. Got to do that first so that you're ready to start brewing. So make sure that you do that, because if you drop it in and you just start brewing, you're really not going to get the proper brew out of your machine. Drop that pod in, close up the lever, and now we're just going to press the brewed button here on the face of the machine. So I do really like the adjustable spigot, because again, I do find that sometimes when I'm brewing with some different machines, I get a lot of splashing and things like that, and that really helps to cut down on it. Now, if you want, you can stop the brew process here if maybe you don't want to brew as much coffee as what the machine is pre-programmed to brew, and you can do that by just pressing that brewed button again. Now, you're probably not going to use that too often, but I found that every once in a while I might stop the machine in the middle of a brew cycle just because maybe I want a bit stronger cup of coffee or something along those lines. Now, you hear the pump going in this machine. There's a 19 bar pressure pump, and that is above what is the generally recommended and accepted pressure type for just about any kind of machine, specifically espresso machines. Usually you're going to find about 15 bar in a lot of machines. So running at 19 bar is definitely a good amount of pressure in this machine, and it brews a nice cup of coffee. So let's also show you how we can brew a latte using the Verismo 585. So when we're all done brewing, we just open that lever, and we're going to drop that spent pod down and into the pod collection tray that's just underneath the machine right there. Now, this is where we're going to make use of the milk pod button on the 585. I've got a milk pod right here. It's white, so it's easy to tell what kind of pod I'm using. I'm going to start off first by dropping that in. This is how Starbucks suggests to make a cafe latte using the 585. Drop that in, close up that lever. Again, you're going to need to add a little bit of pressure, but don't be scared because it's perfectly fine. It needs to puncture that pod. Now that I've dropped the milk pod in, I'm going to go ahead and press the milk pod button on the front of the machine. So again, because each of these buttons is programmed differently, you're going to find that this is going to apply different pressure and of course adjust the length of the draw that the machine is going to give you based on the pod type that you select. All right, so when the milk is all done brewing, we're going to open up the lever. We're going to drop the spent pod into the pod collection tray. And now we're going to make use of an espresso K-Fee pod. These are a little bit different from the brewed pods, a little darker in color, and you notice they do not have that foil seal on the bottom, so these you can just simply drop into the machine. Drop that in and then close up that brew lever. Again, give it a little bit of pressure because it does need to puncture that pod and get it ready for brewing. And now we're just going to go ahead and press the espresso button on the face of the machine. Now this is going to brew just a regular single shot of espresso. So this is what you come to expect usually when you order a cafe latte at Starbucks or something like that. You notice it's not necessarily a very long shot of espresso, and that is perfectly fine if that is the way that you like your drink to be. So that's all the bells and whistles and features on the Verismo 585. Now again, there's a couple things that we haven't covered in this video, and you can check out some other videos from us on how you can use those other features on this machine. But this machine is available right now. The retail price, suggested retail price that we've seen is $399. So it is a little bit higher maybe than what you might expect when you're going into the world of single serve. But for being an all-in-one machine and something that has definitely, I think, the potential to introduce a number of different pod types, and especially all the different programmable features on this machine, such as being able to change the temperature of your brew and being able to program how often the machine should be descaled and various things like that, Got a lot of features. They're probably going to make it worth it for you, especially if you really like just a quick all-in-one package for being able to make especially good espresso drinks at home. So there you go, guys. That's an overview of the Starbucks Verismo 585 single-serve coffee machine coming to you from Starbucks. Want to thank you guys, as always, for watching our videos here on Aromacup.com. Please join us on the website, check out more of our videos, and check out some more videos on the Verismo line right here on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, enjoy your cup. Take care.